kind of reaction do I get to saying I'm a miniature painter? Yeah, a lot of the time it's tell me more. I don't know what that is. What do you mean? So that is that's often the most the reaction, like oh okay, not like instantly. Oh, I know that. Some people have heard of it. Right, who is Dave? Dave is a 44-year-old man who got into the hobby when he was 13, 14. Touched the hobby slightly then, but then lots more interesting things came along. And then the hobby stopped for me for about 20 years. And then I came back into contact with the hobby via my eldest son, who came home late from school one day, and before I could tear a strip off of him, he told me he was late because he was at a Warhammer club, and I was very enthusiastic about it. So we went straight down to a local store and got more involved together. It went from a school club to him to his own thing. Yeah, and then it became my thing again.
I think in general people are quite interested because it's something that they don't really know. A few types of responses typically are like, oh, you paint like tiny soldiers. Or some people think that you actually paint tiny canvases because that's also called miniature painting. So that can be a bit confusing sometimes. Usually I show them some pictures and they like what it looks like. But then if you actually show them the miniature, they're surprised that they're really that small. My name is Maartje Giesbers, and I paint as a hobby. And I've been painting for about 15 to 20 years, I'm not entirely sure how long. And I actually started painting after I went to Germany on holiday. And there I went into this store where they had all these miniatures in a glass cabinet. And I thought it was quite interesting to look at, very pretty. And I decided to just buy something and just go ahead and try it out. And actually, it turns out that I liked it a lot. When I started was a period where there was very little known about painting, or at least it wasn't really spread. So we had some sources on the internet, but YouTube wasn't that big at that time. And there were not really too many people that were very vocal about the hobby. So there were some internet fora where I met some people and we shared some tutorials and we shared our way of painting. And that's how I kind of got into the hobby on a bit more serious note, started to write tutorials myself, meet people, write reviews about miniatures, and started to follow give workshops, and that's kind of my backstory.
I am Sidney. I have been doing this hobby for about a year now and enjoying it a lot ever since I started. The whole miniature painting world in general, and it pretty much mesmerized me that you can just have a more artistic leaning hobby, but then also have this entire gaming side on to it as well. I like to paint them for the painting's sake. I really enjoy working on it, having a finished product in the end and being able to think about, yeah, I made it is cool as well. But once I just sit down and get to painting, it's quite kind of pretty much therapeutic for me. It helps me get my head off of things, off of a stressful day especially, that I can just start painting and get things off of my head, just wind down a bit. It is great to end a long day and relax.
I think it's very artistic, this hobby. I myself have painted miniatures purely for the fun of painting. So it's a bit of both. I have seen this hobby help people through personal problems. I've seen this hobby relax people after a long day at work. So it's way more than playing with toy soldiers. Absolutely. A lot of people try it out. That might be because there's a lot more marketing for the hobby. I have seen a few more women enter the hobby, definitely from a miniature painting perspective, not so much the game.
I think in general there are a lot of men. It's always been like that. It's a male-dominated hobby. I think, I'm not sure why. Probably because many of the men start this hobby because of the wargaming, and I think that's just the kind of a natural thing where girls are less drawn to wargaming than guys are. Generalizing here, of course. But I do think that there are definitely more girls now, maybe because of social media, because you see a lot more of it. Maybe because they see other people or other women paint. But I do see a lot more females, and I think maybe there are also just more miniatures that are made for women, that are just a little bit more relying on the softer side of feminine figures, for example, rather than the sexistic side, or not just only like warriors to paint also for men, but also more like stylistic things. And I think that for many women, myself included, are more attracted to that. Yeah, I think for the last few years, there's definitely been a lot more acceptable female models. When I started, there were female models, and there were also quite a lot of nice ones, but they were often sexualized in a way that I don't enjoy painting. I enjoy painting female figures. I don't mind painting sexualized female figures, but I do want them to at least have a strong appearance in that sense, and to come across as strong females and not just sexualized females. But I do think there still could be more diversity, especially when it comes to female shapes, because there still tends to be like a preferred type of shapes that we want to see, like physical shapes. And I think there could be a lot more diversity there, not only for females, also for male figures, because they are also all muscular males. And I mean, chubby guys can look good as well. So I think we should have a bit more diversity in there. I have had some comments, and then some of them may have been joking or thinking they were joking, where they said that I only got attention because I was a woman, or that people only liked my painting because I'm a girl. But not so much. And I think in general, for me, it felt always very welcome place to be in, and people are very enthusiastic, and they like seeing a girl painting and doing things a little bit differently than they were used to.
Advice for people who want to get started: just do it. You can spend a lot of time procrastinating over beginning, where to begin, stuff like that. But there's lots of advice and help at hand to get started and to just try it out. People that are already in the hobby, just keep doing it, keep having fun. If you're not in the mood for painting miniatures or playing games, don't do it. It will come back because there is some sort of a hobby endorphin that sort of flows through us, and which is probably what kept me interested after a 20-year stopgap.
I think in the first, if you really want to start, is just to paint a lot. But I think one of the things that doesn't really help you is to do too many figures at the same time. I think for me, what really helped is just every miniature I paint, I try to do something that I didn't do before. I try to challenge myself with every project, and then you get better. But in the end, it's a muscle that you're training. So the more you paint, the better you will get. It's just simple like that. And don't fear of making mistakes. Don't save your prettiest miniatures until you are better, because that day you will never feel good enough, and at that moment when you will feel good enough, that miniature might not be the one that you want to paint anymore. So paint it whenever you feel like, and you'll get better by experience alone.
What kind of future do I see for the hobby? It's just gonna get bigger. I think I think the quality of the miniatures that are being produced is just getting better and better. I don't know how often, how much they can improve more, but they do it a lot of the time. So the miniatures I work with anyway. So I think it's just going to improve. It can't get worse.
But I think the main change that we'll see will be a lot more computer stuff. I mean, we see a lot of people that are sculpting now digitally, and you can print your miniatures at home. So that makes it a lot easier to make things. Makes it a lot easier to make things that are really what you want to make. So I think what we will see is a lot more people making their own designs and deciding themselves what they want to make, and not let the companies decide it for them. And maybe at some point there will be a robot painting the miniatures, but that would be sad, a sad day to come.
On a good way to grow even more and attract more people, with new miniatures coming out, models that just look, let's say, more perfect. Not necessarily to say they are strictly better than old hand sculpted ones, but they have less impurities since they are not hand sculpted anymore. They're getting more and more laid with crisp detail, digitally sculpted, CAD designed.
I think it's still dominated mostly by white males, and we should have a lot more diversity there. I mean, you see them around the world. Why aren't they in our hobby? So I think it would be nice if we could see a bit more diversity there. I think they have probably very own ideas of what they find pretty, or what would their preferences be, what miniatures should look like. So for me, that would definitely be something to look forward to.
Various backgrounds need to be promoted in order to attract people diversity, to make sure it can escape more and more from the young boys' hobby that it started as in the 80s.
Want me to clap?
Oh yeah, you can do the clap thing.
Yeah, just one good clap.
I have to clap?
You have to clap.